All right, I think it's just about time to get started. Hi, everyone. My name is Carrie Ross, and I am looking forward to chatting with you today. I would first, and thank you very much for joining today's info session on the MPPGA program, Co-op Careers, Professional Development, and in a little while, we'll hear from some of our fantastic alumni. I would first like to acknowledge that the University of British Columbia is situated on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam people. My name is Carrie Ross. I am the Co-op and Career Services Manager for students in the Master of Public Policy and Global Affairs program. So the next hour or so, what we'll do is I'm going to be giving a short presentation here with some PowerPoint slides. And then our fantastic alumni who are on our call today, Alfonso, Lauren, and Hannah, we'll be hearing from them in a little while. And then I look forward to hearing all of your questions and comments and have a fruitful discussion afterwards. So, most of you probably know at this point who we are, but for those of you who don't or need a reminder or are new to our program, knowing about our program, the MPPGA is a full-time professional policy program from the UBC School of Public Policy and Global Affairs. For those interested in university hierarchy, oh, there we go. Colleagues are putting things into the chat. Sorry, I should have said yes. My colleagues are putting some comments into the chat and some links into the chat for you. And for when you have questions, we ask that you please put them into the Q&A, and then we'll get to those shortly. So sorry, back to the slides. The MPPGA program is at the School of Public Policy and Global Affairs. It provides inter and multidisciplinary policy analysis, design skills, communication, project management, and subject-specific expertise in our three main streams: development, sustainability, and global governance and security. Our faculty members are very engaged and active on issues such as climate change, the Asia-Pacific region, Indigenous rights, energy, democracy, security, resource governance, and more. The program is a full-time program which takes 20 months. And new for 2021, in September, we are launching an accelerated program that is 16 months long. So I just wanted to use this graphic here. This refers to the 20-month program, and I just wanted to take a moment to share this with you. I really like that it kind of puts two of the main parts of this program together. So on the top, what you can see is the terms 1 to the end, and this is you growing as a professional, emerging policy professional. That top half is around your professional development, skills, training, and networking. And then at the bottom, you can see where the academic foundation in year 1 and then your stream courses in year 2 come up. And you are the person in the middle. So I like thinking of it as, yes, it's professional development. Those are activities and courses and resources. But the cool thing in this program, I think, is that it is developing you as a policy professional, an emerging global affairs professional. So speaking of professional development, just to hit a few of the points that happen in the program. We do offer custom and curated professional development and career planning resources and materials for MPPGA students. These are things like career planning forums and career resource guides, sector overviews, strengths finders testing, and more. And many of these activities are now integrated into a 4-credit course called Professional Policy Practice. It's a 1.5 credit course that lasts all of the first year and encourages and supports students on their own individual paths as they figure out what problems in the world they would like to solve. Of course, there is access to additional program events and opportunities, as well as those that come through the school itself, and of course, campus-wide workshops, resources, events, and materials. Your tuition at UBC into the MPPGA program does cover all of these fantastic resources at the university, and you're always highly encouraged to make full use of them. They're really great resources. As well, we offer an in-house MPPGA mentorship program. There is a faculty mentorship for the first year. That is where you are assigned a faculty mentor to help you through the first year. And on the, oops, sorry, sorry everybody, I hit a button. Pardon me for 1 second. Sorry about that. I'll just fix this really quickly. So I was saying that the mentorship program in the first year is for faculty, for students and faculty, and then the excuse me, the second year program. The second year has a mentorship program for with professionals. So what we do here is it's by application, and the students will apply with specific goals and interests in mind. And then I work with them on matching and connecting them with a professional mentor, which usually means an off-campus person. And although we've had, of course, challenges with the COVID world this year, we have been able to connect people. The sort of benefit of that is we have been able to connect people who are not necessarily in this time zone. So right now I'm working on this mentorship program, and we'll be connecting our students with folks in London and Washington, D.C., as well as in Canada. And also once a year, we host several recruitment info sessions. So these are Government of Canada policy recruitment sessions. Examples include recruitment of policy leaders or advanced policy analyst program, for example. And of course, there are additional opportunities that a second year student can apply to, but these ones are ones that we coordinate and work with these recruiters, and those usually happen in October of each year. Okay. I'll try to be very careful with my buttons. So I wanted to just briefly mention about the Faculty of Arts Co-op program. This is an option for the MPPGA students. It's usually taken between the first and second year in the summer. Some people on this call probably do know what co-op is, and others may not. And so a co-op job is very similar to an internship. There are three main criteria. It must be paid, it must be meaningful, and it must be full-time. And on that meaningful part, that's one of the really big distinguishing features between an internship and a co-op, is that it is not a getting coffee kind of a job. This is paid degree-related work experience that will help you expand your network, develop your network, strengthen your skills, and allow you to contribute meaningfully to a place that works on policy. As you can see on the screen here, you do get to grow your policy network. You're developing skills and competencies that will help make you more competitive for work after graduation. So you might be wondering, that all sounds pretty good, but what kind of work do they actually do? And by no means is this an exhaustive list, and you'll hear me say that a few times in the next few minutes, but this is just an example of some of the types of work co-op students can do. Communications, writing, technical and business writing, project or program management, policy analysis, data analysis, economic analysis, service delivery, evaluation and needs assessment, and more. And you might be thinking, okay, cool, now what kind of titles, and like, what does this all mean at the next stage? And I would be remiss if I didn't say the little caveat about co-op job titles, probably almost all job titles as well, is don't put too much emphasis on the actual title itself. Those who have experienced the co-op program would probably see a lot of jobs called co-op student. It could be a really cool job working on policy or security issues and the like. So you're always advised to just go dig a little deeper beyond that job title. Now, with that caveat said, here is, and again, not an exhaustive list, but here is an example of some of the jobs that our students have done over the last few years. So this is a word cloud. So you can see that the biggest one, junior policy analyst, is the one that our students have, the job that they've had the most. You can also see that they've been communications assistant, negotiation assistant, a UN intern, which is slightly different than co-op, research analyst, technical writer, research coordinator, and more. And so now you're thinking, okay, I've got kind of the type of work they do, and I sort of understand some of the titles, and I'm putting these things together, but then where do they do these things? And again, not an exhaustive list. but wanted to highlight a few of these. So the federal government of Canada is one of the largest employers. Global Affairs Canada, for example, is one of the units where our students have worked, as well as Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada, or ISED as it's called, the City of Richmond, Asia Pacific Foundation of Canada, Conference Board of Canada, Environment and Climate Change Canada, First Nations Health Authority, and many others. And just before I go on to some of the other non-co-op options, I just wanted to reiterate the point that co-op is an option. You are not required to do anything in between your first and your second year. You're strongly encouraged and advised to. But one of the things about this career development piece of MPBGA is that it's very individualized. What do you want to do? What problems do you want to solve? What skills do you need? What do you already have? What gaps of knowledge or experience do you want to fill? While you're all a part of a cohort in the first year, and you all take the same courses, you're all vastly different with your goals and experience and ideas and solutions. And so one of the reasons I think I have like a really cool job is because I get to work with all of you individually to help figure out what your plan is going to be. So if you end up deciding that co-op is not right for you, and you want to take courses, take another work opportunity, or do something else, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. My goal in working with you as the Career Services Manager is to ensure and do my best to make sure that you feel encouraged and empowered to make the decision that is right for you. So with that said, here are a few other options that some students do in the summer. We do currently have a partnership agreement with the United Nations Association of Canada that sees a few students go each summer on internships. These are unpaid, but we do offer a small stipend. I believe these would be in existence for this group here next year, although I encourage you to continue to check back on our website as engagements and partnerships do change. Another, and this is back to UBC, another option is Sustainability Scholars Internships. And I've got a slide on that coming up, so I'll just pause on that one for a moment and explain that in a moment. So another great option for students in the summer is our UBC's Work Learn program. I think the Work Learn program is a really excellent opportunity for students to work. One, if they do need to work during the academic year, I think this is a great way to do it. There's a restriction that only allows you to work for 10 hours a week during the academic year. And then in the summer, you're allowed to work 20 hours a week. So that's roughly speaking a part-time job. Some students like to choose that option. I kind of call it a combo meal. Some students like to choose that option plus take some courses. That option plus maybe an RA or a break or whatever else. Again, it's up to you what it is that you want to do. But these are popular and great options that the university has. So as I mentioned, Sustainability Scholars Program. This is a coordinated program on UBC campus that offers paid research work to graduate students under the umbrella of sustainability. And sustainability here is defined quite broadly. And the cool thing is that while it is coordinated at UBC, you actually do work with employers off campus in the Lower Mainland. And for those of you not familiar with our area, the Lower Mainland is Vancouver and its surrounding cities, and there are quite a few. And the Sustainability Scholars does actually hire throughout the year, with most of the projects coming in this summer. And I encourage you to visit their website to learn more about that. Okay, so that was a very quick overview of year one. And as you come back into year two, the career support gets to continue. The development of you as a professional is continuing. So you continue to receive unlimited one-on-one coaching from me, advising, career planning and development, help with your application materials and plan. We can do as many mock interviews as you like, and resumes, cover letters, figuring out what kind of mentorship do you need, helping you to feel comfortable developing your network, reaching out for informational interviews. The professional mentorship program I mentioned earlier is optional, and you're always encouraged to take that. Your continued professional development, there are, of course, conferences both on campus and off, as well as case competitions and other ways to engage in some policy puzzles and challenges. And of course, I think maybe everyone's favorite, I haven't exactly taken a poll, though I know it is a super cool and exciting option or program requirement of the program, is the Global Policy Project, or GP Squared as we call it. So this is, if you don't know what that is, I do encourage you to visit our website and have a look. We're going to be hearing maybe a little bit about that from some of our alumni shortly. But the Global Policy Project is a capstone course that happens in the last year in one of two formats, either a 7-month option, working with an international client in teams of about 5, or a 4-month option, again, working in teams of 5 with a Canadian client. Whoops, went too fast, got too excited. Okay, so just a couple of bits on alumni here before I do turn the floor over, or pause for questions and then turn the floor over. I'm a fan of Word Clouds. I've just discovered that tool online. So some of our, again, not an exhaustive list, but some of our alumni job titles, as you can see here: policy analyst, consultant, communications director, project manager, program coordinator, learning coordinator, public servant, senior analyst, and so many more. It's pretty cool. Well, I've been working with these students for a long time, so I think it's pretty cool. And I hope to see your job title here on the list in future years. So you might be thinking again, okay, that's pretty cool sounding, and then where do they go after? And again, not an exhaustive list, but here's a short sample of where some of our students have gone. You can see they're at Newmont Gold Corporation, TransLink. I know students have worked, or alumni have worked at Vancouver Board of Trade. We have NATO Operations and Human Security, Natural Resources Canada, the Treasury Board, and so many more. So I will pause on my part here. Thank you very much for listening. Maybe we could take a couple of questions now, if there are any burning questions on the bits that I've just said, just before we turn the floor over to our colleagues, our alumni. So I will just have a quick look. Okay. Okay, how long did it take for them to find a job after graduation? Okay, let's have our alumni answer that. I'll just read through a couple of these. Experience in, mention the cost of okay. I just see one that's, I believe in another session, someone mentioned cannot secure internships or be employed by the Government of Canada if you are an international student. Yes, that is largely true. Most federal government jobs in the co-op program anyway are for either only Canadian citizens or Canadian citizens, permanent residents, and refugees. It does depend on the employer. Technically, with some of them, international students are allowed to apply, but the government has an order in which they need to hire. And I believe it's veterans first, and then this group, and then this group. So realistically, that part can be challenging. However, there are a lot of co-op positions that are open to international students. Not all of them, but a lot. BC government, like the provincial government, though you're eligible for those. Private sector companies and organizations, nonprofit organizations, and other businesses, for example. So I hope I answered that question for you. Acceptance through the program. Okay, so it sounds like most of the, or it looks like most of the questions I think we have coming up here, if I'm reading them correctly, might be better answered after our alumni have had a chance to introduce themselves. So let me come back here. Okay, so it is my absolute pleasure to introduce to you our fantastic alumni today, Lauren Hammond, Alfonso Hernandez, and Hannah Geiser. We're going to go with the order that we see on the screen here, and I'm going to ask that each alumni takes about, I don't know, 3 or 5 minutes to introduce themselves, what they do, what they work, and a bit about their experience in the program and a bit about their experience after the program. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Lauren.
Hello. Are we all good? Can we hear? Yep, we've got the thumbs up from Kerry. Good news. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Lauren Hammond. I am an MPPGA alumni. I graduated in 2018, May of 2018. I started the program September 2016. And I am a gainfully employed MPPGA alumni. As you can see there, I am an intergovernmental relations advisor with the government of British Columbia. And I guess I'll just briefly speak to that before I tell you a little bit about my background and why I came to the program, etc. So what I do in my job at the moment, I actually work in international policy. And I guess to explain, intergovernmental relations is relations essentially on behalf of the government of British Columbia with other governments. So that's other provincial governments in Canada, including the federal and also the federal government, and international governments, and in particular the US and US state governments. So it's a very interesting job. I've been in the job for just over 2 years. I think one of the questions was, how long did it take you to find a job after the program? And it took me, I think maybe 4 months or so. So after graduation, so not too long. And I only had to move across the ditch from the mainland in Vancouver over to Victoria, which is the beautiful capital of British Columbia. So I can speak to a little bit more about what I do in my job if people are interested, perhaps later down the track, but I'll just give you a little bit of background for me, my career and how I came to the MPPGA. So actually, just to say, first up, in case you're guessing where my accent is from, I'm from Australia. I also get New Zealand or England or South Africa. So just to put that to rest straight up, I'm from Australia. So I actually studied my undergraduate degrees, a combined degree in Australia. I did a combined Bachelor of Law and Arts degree in politics and international relations. So that kind of set me on the course of having an interest in international relations and international policy. After my graduation, I actually moved to London in the UK, and I worked for an international organization called the International Maritime Organization. I mean, I was just doing admin work there, but it was really my first foray into international relations type work. And it really exposed me to a whole bunch of issues in those areas, and I kind of got hooked into the world of international diplomacy and international policy. But nevertheless, my visa ran out in the UK, so I came back to Australia, and I got a job sort of working in the legal industry. If anybody is familiar with the legal industry, you would know the company called LexisNexis. Which is essentially it's a global publishing company for lawyers and publishes case law and legislation, things like that. So I started out working there as an editor, and then I moved up into management positions. So I was there for about four years or so. And during my time there, it was quite a commercial sort of type roles that I was working in. So less to do with policy, but actually I had the opportunity to travel, particularly in Asia, and work in Asia. So I did some work in the Philippines, and I worked a little bit with our Hong Kong office and Singapore office and whatnot. And throughout that experience, I really understood or started to become interested in how the work of governments in those countries impact the people, you know, across all different levels of society. And I became more interested sort of in policy and understanding how governments work and how government decisions work. And that was a main impetus for me to take my career in a different direction. And to become interested in policy. Also, given my legal training, I had quite a sort of narrow focus, I think, in terms of the way that I would think about problems and think about the world. And so I wanted to open that up and sort of practice my lateral thinking skills a little bit more. I found this program in Vancouver at UBC, the MPPGA, and what appealed to me about it was that, well, first of all, it was in public policy and global affairs, so it had the combination of both, which is what I was looking for. but also it was a more professionally oriented program other than some of the research-based programs. I didn't want to do a research thesis, so the GP Squared project really appealed to me. And it had more of an emphasis on sort of professional skills over academic skills, which was something, you know, already sort of having a career that I was really wanting to engage with. And another part of the reason why I wanted to study the MPPGA was because it gave me it filled some gaps in my CV that I felt that I needed to work in policy. So for instance, I didn't have a lot of exposure to statistics or economics, those types of disciplines. And so I wanted to upskill myself, and the MPPGA certainly did that. So that's, I guess, a bit of a brief background about how I came to the MPPGA. I had a great experience at the MPPGA. I think its strengths are diversity of, a great diversity of perspective. A lot of different people from all areas of the world. I really benefited and learned from my colleagues and my classmates. But also, you know, UBC has a great reputation, and it's a really great jumping off point for students that are wanting to perhaps transition into working in BC or working in Vancouver or even working in Canada if you're not from Canada. So I might leave it there and leave some time for Alfonso and Hannah to tell their stories, but happy to answer any questions as we go throughout the session.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Lauren. I think maybe what we'll do is we'll ask Alfonso and Hannah to share their insight and perspective as well, and then we'll group some of the questions and have more time answers at the Q&A at the end. And so just thank you for those of you who are putting your comments in the Q&A section. We'll get to those shortly. So Alfonso, I'd love to turn the floor over to you.
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Alfonso. Can everybody hear me? Okay, perfect. Well, I'm gonna try to be quick. There is a lot to say because it's a very rich program that really exceed my expectations during the program, and even like after graduation, seeing what I've been doing with the skills that I gained during the program. I'm currently working as a public management consultant at the UN Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, which is located in Santiago, really far away from from Vancouver. So you never know like where you're gonna end working after graduation. So I was lucky to get a position there, and I've been able to really apply the skills and keep learning every day. So what I did during the program, for the program, I went for the stream of energy, resources, and sustainability, which was the stream that really interests me. And it's something like very strong in UBC. And also like part of what I did this stream is because I got a scholarship. Some people were asking for funding. My funding came from the Mexican government. So the Ministry of Energy provided me all the funding to study at UBC. Then I got a work and learn position in the Canadian International Resources and Development Institute, which is a policy international development institute that belongs to UBC, that works in many countries. So even at UBC, you have the opportunities to do policy related work. And then as an international student, as Kerry mentioned, many positions are mostly in the Canadian federal government. So what I did was to apply for different institutions, and really the reputation of UBC and what you can offer can open doors where you cannot even imagine. So I applied to different international institutions, and I ended up having a position at the Inter-American Development Bank. For those who are not familiar with the Latin American region, the IDB is basically the World Bank for Latin America, and actually lends more money to Latin American countries than the World Bank. So I got a paid internship there. So you can also look like further. I had a very enriching chat with Carrie, advising me because I was like looking for some opportunities, and she say like open the horizon and apply to everywhere. And I was really lucky. After graduation, I got hired first as a consultant for the IDB, working in renewable energy in Chile. And then I found a position at the UN Economic Commission. So this is a little bit of what what I did during the program. And there is a lot to say, but I will leave the floor to Hannah.
Thank you so much, Alfonso. And just because I have your fantastic photos up here, did you want, and I'll just switch the screen here. Is there anything that you'd like to speak to here?
Oh yeah. Well, the first one with the mug is my desk at the IDB. And then this is my fantastic GP Squared team. It's Alex from the UK. Then we have Tracy from Vietnam, and then we have Doreen from Kenya, and then Rafa from El Salvador. As Lauren mentioned, one of the like the best experiences that you get, it's actually in the classroom, because you have a very multicultural classmates. We were like 40 people from 30 something countries. So I don't really know in how many places you can find like this type of diversity. So it's like was a very enriching experience. And then we have other like GP Square sessions. And then the one in the meeting room is at CERDI. We were having some meeting there. And well, there is also time for some fun. As you can see in the Taj Mahal. We had the opportunity to go to the Taj Mahal during our time in Gujarat, because I did my GP Squared in China and India, in Gujarat, in Ahmedabad. So we also met with some members of some NGOs, not just like the partner. The former program director arranged a very busy agenda for us, that we had the opportunity to meet with several NGOs that were working in some related topics to the GP Square, of course. Then the internship picture with the former president of the IDB, and then one visit that we had to one school in the rural side of Gujarat.
And thank you so much, Alfonso. I think I got a postcard even from you guys as well.
Yeah.
Okay, whoopsies, looking ahead there. Okay, thank you. I'll just leave this here for Hannah, and then we'll finish up with a couple of slides, turn off the screen share, and try to answer some of your questions. So thank you so much, Alfonso. And Hannah, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Carrie. I don't have any fun photos to follow that up with, so sorry, everyone. But my name's Hannah. I graduated from the MPPGA just this past spring in 2020. In my undergrad, I studied global studies and legal studies. I was someone who thought I wanted to go to law school and become a lawyer back then. And pretty soon into my undergraduate degree, I realized that that wasn't going to be for me, and I wasn't on the path to law school. So maybe policy was, and it was sort of a 1 degree pivot away from the path I had thought I was going to take versus some new options that I saw available to me. So I joined the MPPGA for some of the reasons similar to what Lauren spoke about. I really was looking for a practical experience versus a research-based degree. And so I joined, I started in September 2018 with some federal work experience under my belt. I had worked for the Canadian Border Services during my undergrad. And so that was sort of my first taste, relatively young, I got of government work and how federal governments function both independently and together. And so because of that federal work experience, I got my co-op in between my first and second years of the MPPGA, like Carrie was talking about. I started working with the Federal Ministry of Indigenous Services Canada, and that is sort of landed me in many ways in the job that I have now. So I got my job. I know there was a question about how soon after graduation. I actually was offered my job in March before I was really even done the program. I had sort of started, I had seen the job posting actually about a year ago when I was home for Christmas break, and it looked just like sort of the perfect intersection of all of my interests and backgrounds for me. So I applied last winter and I got it back in March. Because of COVID, my start date was pushed back. So I didn't actually start until August, but that meant I had the summer off to do some other things. So I completed a project management certificate through the University of Toronto over the summer. And then I began my job that I have now in August. So I work for a company called the Castlemaine Group. It's based here in Vancouver, and we're a consulting firm that does work pretty exclusively with and for Indigenous communities, governments, businesses, and organizations. And even if our client is not directly an Indigenous representative, then all of our projects are done with the aim of furthering the self-determination of Canadian Indigenous communities and people here in Canada. So like I mentioned, I pretty much came to this job because of the co-op experience that I had before start doing my co-op through the MPPGA. I had never had any formal work or personal experience with Indigenous people in Canada or governments. And it really opened my eyes to something that I thought I wanted to do and wanted to pursue for my future. So yeah, I landed at the Castlemaine Group. I'm on the governance and policy team. So pretty much everything that I do involves policy in some way, shape, or form, whether it's policy writing or communications, different types of analysis, any projects that we take on or new clients that we take on that need policy work done, I'm usually brought onto. I should say that I shifted into the private sector work like this, having had a bunch of federal work experience, because I knew that I had kind of the energy to do that. And I found myself rather frustrated in some of the federal work that I had been doing. I really wanted to hit the ground running after graduation, and I thought that the private sector might be a better fit for that, for the faster paced work that I was excited for and ready for. And that's exactly really what I've gotten. The policy work that I do varies greatly depending on the project, depending on the client, depending on the deliverable at hand. And some days it means, drafting resolutions that are brought to the floor and debated by political decision makers. And some days it means, drafting press statements or tweets or Facebook posts on behalf of a client who's trying to communicate to their constituents about a new policy, or collecting survey data and using it to draft a community health plan. So it really has varied a lot, but the policy work that experience that I got out of the MPPGA really set me up in a lot of ways for the work that I'm doing. Like I remember we had a class, one of our first year classes, and we spent a class writing tweets about policies. And at the time I remember thinking, like, is this really going to be something that I spend, time doing in a professional way? And yes, absolutely. So yeah, I'll stop there. And I know there are some more specific questions that I'd be happy to answer with Lauren and Alfonso, but yeah, thanks for having us.
That's awesome, Hannah. Thank you so much. I'll let Professor Durkis know that the tweet the tweet training was great.
Yeah, he'll appreciate it.
Yes, he will. Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, I think I just wanted to, oh, there we go. There are Alfonso's pictures again. So here, just wanted to direct you to the website if you'd like to learn more and read more about what you've heard from our alumni today, and of course, many of our other alumni. This is what the webpage will look like. And before I forget, because I'm forgetful, we do have one remaining info session on January 14th. I believe my colleagues have pasted into the chat some links and reminders about that, so I hope that you can join. So with that, I will stop the screen share and we'll go back to some of the questions. So thank you to our alumni and thank you to our guests online for listening. So just going over to the question and answers here. And this one, I think, these are a few questions and they're certainly directed to all of the alumni. What was your experience like in the program? How was GP squared? And this is a really great one. What do you wish you knew going into public policy? What was your experience like in the program? GP squared, what do you wish you knew going into public policy? Is there any alum that would like to jump in with any answers to any of those questions?
Why don't we start with an easy one, Kerry?
Sure, let's do that, Laura, thanks.
Yeah, no worries. Look, my experience was, I'm not necessarily just saying this, it was a really, really positive experience. As I said, I really appreciated the different perspectives of my classmates, but not necessarily just because they're from different parts of the world, but also because they came from different backgrounds. So, you know, I would be working with people on a project that had economics background or social studies background or a finance background or, you know, environmental science, like whatever. And actually, since I've been out of the program, I've realized how valuable that experience has been, because in the real world, you do have to work with people in policy from other perspectives and from other disciplines that have a different way of thinking about problems. And you need to learn skills in being able to communicate with them and working collaboratively with them to try to solve problems. And I would say that, you know, that was one of the biggest skills that I got out of the MPPGA. In relation to the GP squared experience, like absolutely surpassed all of my expectations. I didn't, perhaps I didn't necessarily have too many expectations about what it would be like, but just having the chance to, I did my GP squared project in India, and I'd never been to India before. I didn't know much about it. And so having the chance to sort of delve into that realm was really, really valuable for me. I can't remember the last question, but I might also leave some space for Hannah or Alfonso to answer as well.
That's awesome, Lauren. Thank you so much. The last, and that was a really great overview of GP squared, or the experience. The last question was, what do you wish you knew going into public policy?
I can take a stab at this one. I think that one thing, and I wish I knew it, not necessarily because it's a bad thing, it's actually a really positive thing, is that I wish I was aware of the breadth and scope of opportunities for, not just for employment, but just of all types of experiences that are kind of housed under the umbrella of public policy. Like, there are so many jobs, there are so many types of jobs that you can go into. And I think that the program, as well as all work experiences that sort of came with it, GP squared, really were about like what you would make out of it, and what you could find in each experience that you liked and disliked, and it could help you sort of navigate this very broad scope of policy work that that is available to people like us, like you can be a policy analyst for Tesla if you wanted to. Like who knew that a company like Tesla would need somebody like me? But those are job opportunities. Or you can like work with, you know, biologists and microbiologists and things like this. So there's I wish I knew more and went into it with a bit of an more open mind about the possibilities. However, my mind was opened once I entered the program and sort of learned more and did some research of my own and did some work of my own. So yeah.
Thank you, Hannah. That's awesome. And just if I may add on to what we've heard, and to try to address a couple of the questions I see popping up. And Lauren especially had used the word, you know, the diversity of your cohort and different perspectives. And I just want to sort of add on to that. That's actually one of my favorite things about the program as well. And when I say diversity, I mean diversity in ideas, backgrounds, degrees. It's not a where are you from diversity. It is these ideas and the creative solutions that you have to some of these global complex problems. And it's pretty cool to see, as you've heard from our alumni, it's pretty cool in the classroom and in your GP Squared projects. And that has an influence and an impact on how you see things, I think, after, perhaps during the program and after graduation. I also saw some questions about, you know, sort of the degree, and I know these are a little bit more general, but I did want to just mention one of the things with this degree, and this is really, I think, in part what Hannah was just saying, one of the things with this degree is it can be very broad. On the one hand, that is really exciting because you can apply this degree to just about anything. So I flip it around, not what will the degree do for me, but what do you want to do with the degree? What problems in the world do you want to solve? Then you're going to make this degree work for you to help solve those problems. You're going to add this onto your other professional degrees, like your law degree. We've had engineer, lawyer, medical doctor, religious studies, industrial design, of course, your political science and economics and anthropology and others. But because the program does not have a specific degree requirement, right? Like you do need to have a degree, but you have to demonstrate to the program why your background, including the degrees, including your work experience, makes you ready for a graduate professional program in public policy and global affairs. And so that type of thinking is, you know, you tell us, well, then after graduation, you're going to tell the world, I'm ready to take on this challenge. I'm ready to take this job title. And as you sort of heard from Hannah and I think others, is policy is in between and around and mixed in. So you might not have policy in the job title, but you could certainly be working on policy. You could be a business development person or a communications director or executive director and still very much be working on policy, but not necessarily see policy in that title. So it really can be what you want it to be. And just to briefly continue, I saw a question about I think the degree. You see public policy programs and you see international affairs or global affairs programs, but you don't often see the two together. So this program is using public policy analysis we're looking at global complex problems through the lens of public policy analysis. So that's how those two things come together, which you don't see as often. And so that does help to create and foster this diversity of experiences and ideas and backgrounds. So thank you for those questions. And I hope I answered them. And I can see that my colleagues have put my email, carrie.ross@ubc.ca, and I'm happy to receive your questions and comments after today's session. So I see a question up here about really interested in the UN Association of Canada internships. You're welcome to check out, I think we might have a little bit of information on our website, but you're of course more than welcome to check out their website as well. And essentially it is something that you would apply to in the fall of your first year to take as an internship in the summer. And yes, it is open to international students. And we typically would send up to 4 students to various placements around the world. I will say that because of COVID for this past summer, 2020, those have been put on pause, and they will be hopefully traveling to these countries next summer. I do encourage you to continue to check back on our website, as these are things that can change sort of at any time, because they're not they can change at any time. So I certainly encourage you to check back. But yes, open to international students. Just going down the list here, and I encourage you to continue to jump in, add your questions, especially for our alumni. If you're already employed as a policy professional, can your co-op be designed through your employer? I would say yes, with a caveat, with an asterisk. And that caveat or asterisk is, if you're coming into the program, you're doing so in part because you've identified that you have a gap or in your skills or your knowledge or your competencies, and then you're wanting to perhaps shift more into policy. So we would think, what kind of work would you be doing at your past employer? If you're doing the exact same job, then it wouldn't be very beneficial for you. But if I would work with you and your employer, and if we can design something that is different, or where you're working on something that is new to you, especially around policy, then yes, we can explore that as an option. The average salary so GB squared is a required part of the program, right? So that's, instead of doing the thesis, you do this capstone course for the Global Policy Project. And those costs are largely covered by the program. Okay, question to the alums. Will learning a different language other than being well-versed in English and your native language help in opening up more opportunities? I'm going to turn it over to the alums, but I'm also going to say yes. If you're in Canada and you speak French, and you want to work in the federal government, or if you want to work in the federal government and you're in Canada, then having French is certainly very helpful. And in part, this is, where do you want to work after? Again, comes back to, what problems do you want to solve? If you want to work in Chile and everything's in Spanish, then you're probably going to need to know Spanish, for example. But I'll pause on that, because that was a question for the alums. Alfonso, Lauren, Hannah, maybe Alfonso, did you want to take that one? Or any thoughts?
Yeah, it's basically what you say, Carrie, like, it really depends on which region of the work do you want to work, or what type of work do you want to do. For example, I have Daniela from Colombia. She's fluent in Chinese. So now she's working for the Canada and Asia Foundation. So it really relates to what do you want to work. The IDB, for example, having Portuguese, it also helps you. So look at what are the official languages of the organizations where do you want to work, and target those ones. And if you are not proficient in that second or third language, certainly you can improve along the way. So it really depends on where do you want to go.
Thank you, Alfonso. Appreciate that. And so I hope we answered your question. Oh, yeah, sorry. Someone want to jump in?
Sorry, no, I just wanted to add to one thing that you said, Carrie, about working federally. Absolutely, like, having French is definitely an asset. And I had noticed someone in the Q&A earlier said, asked if it was mandatory. I would say that yes, it is for the most part. I'm from Ontario, so if you're in any of the more eastern provinces, and it's pretty much a mandatory requirement to have. But a weird little asterisk is that here in BC, maybe it's because it's farther away from Quebec, but it's actually not a mandatory thing. And a lot of the people that I worked with here at the federal ministry did not have any French. So absolutely, I would encourage you to get French or another language. Other languages are also considered assets by different levels of government. But in BC, it's not necessarily a mandatory thing for federal ministries. So
also just definitely not mandatory for provincial government. And that would probably go for most provincial governments, but certainly in BC, not mandatory at all.
Awesome. Thank you all for that. Great points. Is this program suited to individuals interested in development work in NGOs? Yes, absolutely. The first stream is development. We have courses focused on development issues, guest speakers. I would certainly say some of the global policy projects as well. Some co-op opportunities. or if I could just speak more broadly, like, yeah, co-op or work opportunities and general engagement with NGOs and development issues. Can I speak to placement rates? What types of jobs they're getting? Oh, sorry. Can I speak to the placement rates? I don't necessarily have the specific numbers. I do have a list of, say, job titles and locations. And so Zach, you're welcome to email me after and we can have a conversation. So I don't have the specific percentage, but what types of jobs are they getting? I always find this one a little bit tricky to answer, in part because of that diversity piece that I mentioned. So it is quite a wide range of, if it's a wide range of interests, skills, backgrounds, ideas, and goals, it kind of does translate into a wide variety of positions and sort of decisions and movement after graduation as well. But we do see people, you know, either move back to their home country, maybe they go back to their past place of work. We've got people in federal governments, provincial government, of course. I know we have people working at the City of Vancouver, nonprofit organizations, environmental consulting companies. Like it's quite broad. And again, it's where do you, if you want to work somewhere, if there's you have a goal in mind and you want that thing, then you're going to find a way to make this degree work for you. And so that's something that I would encourage you to think about. If I can say broadly for your applications to the program, I would think, what do I want to do with the degree, right? What do you want to do with it? What problems do you want to solve? How would you say the students engage with foreign affairs during the MPPGA program? Well, certainly through the coursework in both first year and second year, I would say, as well as guest speakers and lectures and various events. That's sort of my overview of it. Did any of the alumni have any sort of experience or perspective they wanted to share on your engagement with foreign affairs during the program?
Yeah, I can speak a little bit about that. Well, the program organizes different forums. For example, we have the Women in Diplomatic Public Service. We had the council from China, from Indonesia, from Mexico. They were sharing their experiences in this foreign service. And also part of the GP Square, we went to the Canadian Embassy to China. So we had the chance to engage with different diplomats along the program, and also some professors that are not necessarily professors at the School of Public Policy, but are also from political science, that are very well versed in international affairs, that you have the chance to engage with them. So I will say, like, UBC, the School of Public Policy, and the different opportunities that are along really provide several spaces for students who are interested in foreign affairs.
Thank you very much, Alfonso.
Okay,
Carrie,
so
can I just make a quick comment on that? Because working a little bit in international policy in my job now, I actually just want to touch on what Alfonso said about the professors. So I think one of the strengths of the program is that it does provide you a connection to people that are very experienced and have expertise in foreign relations. And I still rely on those connections today, even in my current job. So I definitely think that that's a strength of the school as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lauren. So I see we're, essentially at time.